Magandang araw sa inyong lahat sa aking mga mag-aaral. Aking tatalakayin ang mga hakbang na nagsusulong ng pagtanggap at paggalang sa kasarian para sa ikatlong markaan week 8. Ako muli si Ginoong Ricky B. Marcelino, ang inyong guro sa Araling Panlipunan 10. Kampanyang he4she.org. Ang he4she.org ay pinag-isang kampanya ng UN Women para sa pagkakapantay-pantay na kasarian. Ito rin ay naglalayong isama ang kalalakihan sa laban sa di-pantay na pagtrato sa kababaihan at para sa karapatan ng kababaihan. Noong ika-20 ng Setyembre taong 2014, sa punong tanggapan ng United Nations, pinangunahan ni Emma Watson ang isang kampanya para sa he4she.org. Ito ang kanyang pahayag.
And now let's turn to a young woman who has chosen to lend her voice to this very important solidarity movement. She's a leading British actor, an advocate for gender equality in her own right. She's been involved with the promotion of girls' education for several years. As part of her humanitarian efforts, she's visited Bangladesh, Zambia, recently returned, as we just heard, from Uruguay on her first mission with UN Women. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to this stage our co-host and the UN Women's Global Goodwill Ambassador, Emma Watson.
Your Excellencies, UN Secretary-General, President of the General Assembly, Executive Director of UN Women, and distinguished guests. Today, we are launching a campaign called He for She. I am reaching out to you because we need your help. We want to end gender inequality, and to do this, we need everyone involved. This is the first campaign of its kind at the UN. We want to try and galvanize as many men and boys as possible to be advocates for change. And we don't just want to talk about it. We want to try and make sure that it's tangible. I was appointed as Goodwill Ambassador for UN Women 6 months ago. And the more I've spoken about feminism, the more I have realized that fighting for women's rights has too often become synonymous with man-hating. If there is one thing I know for certain, it is that this has to stop. For the record, feminism, by definition, is the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. It is the theory of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. I started questioning gender-based assumptions a long time ago. When I was 8, I was confused being called bossy because I wanted to direct the plays that we would put on for our parents, but the boys were not. When at 14, I started to be sexualized by certain elements of the media. When at 15, my girlfriends started dropping out of their beloved sports teams because they didn't want to appear muscly. When at 18, my male friends were unable to express their feelings. I decided that I was a feminist, and this seemed uncomplicated to me. But my recent research has shown me that feminism has become an unpopular word. Women are choosing not to identify as feminist. Apparently, I am among the ranks of women whose expressions are seen as too strong, too aggressive, isolating, and anti-men, unattractive even. Why has the word become such an uncomfortable one? I am from Britain, and I think it is right that I am paid the same as my male counterparts. I think it is right that I should be able to make decisions about my own body. I think it is right that women be involved on my behalf in the policies and the decisions that will affect my life. I think it is right that socially I am afforded the same respect as men. But sadly, I can say that there is no one country in the world where all women can expect to receive these rights. No country in the world can yet say that they have achieved gender equality. These rights I consider to be human rights, but I am one of the lucky ones. My life is a sheer privilege because my parents didn't love me less because I was born a daughter. My school did not limit me because I was a girl. My mentors didn't assume that I would go less far because I might give birth to a child one day. These influences were the gender equality ambassadors that made me who I am today. They may not know it, but they are the inadvertent feminists who are changing the world today. We need more of those. And if you still hate the word, it is not the word that is important. It's the idea and the ambition behind it. Because not all women have received the same rights that I have. In fact, statistically, very few have been. In 1997, Hillary Clinton made a famous speech in Beijing about women's rights. Sadly, many of the things that she wanted to change are still true today. But what stood out for me the most was that less than 30% of the audience were male. How can we affect change in the world when only half of it is invited or feel welcome to participate in the conversation? Men, I would like to take this opportunity to extend your formal invitation. Gender equality is your issue too. Because to date, I've seen my father's role as a parent being valued less by society, despite my needing his presence as a child as much as my mother's. I've seen young men suffering from mental illness, unable to ask for help, for fear it would make them less of a man, or less of a man. In fact, in the UK, suicide is the biggest killer of men between 20 to 49, eclipsing road accidents, cancer, and coronary heart disease. I've seen men made fragile and insecure by a distorted sense of what constitutes male success. Men don't have the benefits of equality either. We don't often talk about men being imprisoned by gender stereotypes, but I can see that they are, and that when they are free, things will change for women as a natural consequence. If men don't have to be aggressive in order to be accepted, women won't feel compelled to be submissive. If men don't have to control, women won't have to be controlled. Both men and women should feel free to be sensitive. Both men and women should feel free to be strong. It is time that we all perceive gender on a spectrum instead of two sets of opposing ideals. If we stop defining each other by what we are not and start defining ourselves by who we are, we can all be freer. And this is what he for she is about. It's about freedom. I want men to take up this mantle so that their daughters, sisters, and mothers can be free from prejudice, but also so that their sons have permission to be vulnerable and human too. Reclaim those parts of themselves they abandoned, and in doing so, be a more true and complete version of themselves. You might be thinking, who is this Harry Potter girl? And what is she doing speaking at the UN? And it's a really good question. I've been asking myself the same thing. All I know is that I care about this problem, and I want to make it better. And having seen what I've seen, and given the chance, I feel it is my responsibility to say something. Statesman Edmund Burke said, "All that is needed for the forces of evil to triumph is for good men and women to do nothing." In my nervousness for this speech, and in my moments of doubt, I've told myself firmly, if not me, who? If not now, when? If you have similar doubts when opportunities are presented to you, I hope that those words will be helpful. Because the reality is that if we do nothing, it will take 75 years, or for me to be nearly 100, before women can expect to be paid the same as men for the same work. 15.5 million girls will be married in the next 16 years as children. And at current rates, it won't be until 2086 before all rural African girls can have a secondary education. If you believe in equality, you might be one of those inadvertent feminists that I spoke of earlier. And for this, I applaud you. We are struggling for a uniting word, but the good news is that we have a uniting movement. It is called He for She. I am inviting you to step forward, to be seen, and to ask yourself, if not me, who? If not now, when? Thank you very, very much.
Si Emma Watson ay isang actress mula sa United Kingdom na nakilala sa kanyang mga pagganap sa mga pelikula ng Harry Potter series bilang Hermione Granger. Itinalaga si Watson ng UN Women, isang ahensya ng United Nations para sa pagkakapantay-pantay ng mga kasarian at sa ikabubuti ng kababaihan. Bilang UN Goodwill Ambassador, nangunahan niya ang kampanyang He for She. Para sa susunod na gawain, Missouri Balita, basahin at unawain ang sumusunod na balita pagkatapos isipin ang pangprosesong mga tanong sa sakutang papel. Pamprosesong mga tanong. Una, tungkol saan ang balita? Ikalawa, ano-anong mga karapatan ang dapat makamit na kababaihan ang nabanggit? Ikatlo, ano-anong mga batas ang nabanggit sa balita na may kinalaman sa karapatan ng kababaihan? Ikaapat, paano sinisiguro na walang diskriminasyon laban sa kababaihan na nagaganap? At ikalima, ano ang pagkakatulad ng nilalaman ng kampanyang HeForShe.org at ng balita? So, ipil at political na paglago ng LGBT. Ayon sa pag-aaral na ginawa ng United Nations, Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights o UN OHCHR noong 2011. May mga LGBT, bata at matanda na nakaranas ng di pantay na pagtingin at pagtrato ng kanilang kapwa, pamilya, komunidad at pamahalaan. Kaya naman sa paglipas ng panahon, hindi lamang karapatan ng kalalakihan at kababayan ang pinaglalaban ng iba't ibang individual o grupo. Kabilang din sa mga isinusulong ay ang karapatan ng mga miyembro ng LGBT community, kaya naman merong panukalang batas na naglalayo magsulong nito. Ito ang SOGI Bill. Ang SOGI Bill, base sa nilalaman ng panukalan ni Senator Riza Ontiveros, ay naglalayong maiwasan ang anumang anyo ng diskriminasyon base sa sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression ng isang tao. Base pa rito, ang panukalang batas na ito ay nagpapakita ng pagsunod ng pamahalaan sa Universal Declaration of Human Rights o UDHR, ang International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights or ICCPR, at sa International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights or ICESCR, na nagsasaad na dapat matamasan ng bawat tao ang patas at epektibong proteksyon laban sa diskriminasyon ng kahit anumang basehan, katulad ng lahi, kulay, kasarian, wika, relihiyon, politikal at iba pang opinyon, pambansa o panlipunang pinagmulan, kapanganakan at iba pang estado sa buhay. Bukod sa nasabing panukalang batas, makikita rin natin ang patuloy na paglaban ng mga grupo ng LGBT para sa pantay-pantay na karapatan, oportunidad at pagtanggap sa pamamagitan ng politikal na paglahok. Dito sa ating bansa, natatanging partido politikal para sa mga lesbian, gay, bisexual at transgender LGBT community ay ang LADLAD. Sila ang tumitingin sa mga kapakanan ng nasabing komunidad. Sila ay sumubok, tumakbo upang makakuha ng posisyon sa Kongreso noong 2007, 2010 at 2013. Ang kanilang plataforma ay ang mga sumusunod. Una, refiling of the Anti-Discrimination Bill, which gives LGBT Filipinos equal opportunities in employment and equal treatment in schools, hospitals, restaurants, hotels, entertainment centers, and government offices. Ikalawa, refiling of the bill to repeal the anti-vagrancy law that some unscrupulous policemen used to extort bribes from gay men without ID cards. Ikatlo, setting up of microfinance and livelihood projects for poor and differently abled LGBT Filipinos. At ikaapat, setting up of centers for mature age gays as well as young ones driven out of their homes. The centers will also offer legal aid and counseling as well as information about LGBT issues, HIV and AIDS and reproductive health. Gumawa rin ng kasaysayan si Geraldine Romano noong siya ay nagwagi sa eleksyon 2016 bilang kongresista ng unang distrito ng lalawigan ng Bataan. Siya ang kauna-unahang transgender woman na naluklok bilang kinatawan ng Kongreso. Ayon sa kanya, ang pagtakbo sa Kongreso ay hindi issue ng kasarian, kundi issue kung sino ang makakatulong sa bayan. People look beyond the gender and look at what you offer and what's in your heart. Dagdag pa niya. Para sa ating susunod na gawain, ang modified fact or bluff. Basahin at unawain ang pahayag sa bawat bilang. Isulat ang fact kung ito ay tama at bluff kung ito ay mali. Kung ang iyong sagot ay bluff, ipaliwanag sa baba ng bawat item ang dahilan kung bakit ito mali. Isulat ang sagot sa sagutang papel. Number 1. Ang pagkakapantay-pantay ng kasiraan o gender equality ay naglalayo ng pantay na karapatan at oportunidad para sa lahat, anuman ang kasarian. Number 2. Higit na mas marami ang kababaihan na kinilalang pinakamakapangyarihan sa daigdig ng Forbes magazine kumpara sa kalalakihan. Number 3. Batay sa Labor Force Survey, higit pa rin ang bilang ng kalalakihan na nakapagtatrabaho kumpara sa kababaihan. Number 4. Ang he4she.org ay isang pinag-isang kampanya ng UN Women para sa pagkakapantay-pantay ng kasarian. Number 5. Ayon kay Emma Watson, ang feminism ay tungkol sa paniniwala na dapat ang kababaihan ay higit na nakakangad kaysa sa kalalakihan. Number 6, sa ating bansa, ang bilang ng mga babaeng nahahalal sa iba't ibang posisyon ay mas konti pa rin kumpara sa kalalakihang naluluklok. Number 7, ang soggy pill ay isang panukala na naglalayong maiwasan ang anumang anyo ng diskriminasyon base sa sexual orientation and gender identity or expression ng isang tao. Number 8, ang soggy pill ay isang panukalang isinusulong ni Senator Risa Ontiveros. Number 9, ang bawat individual ay maaari lamang makamit ang pagkapantay-pantay kung siya ay nasa sarili niyang bansa. And number 10, dapat makamit ng bawat tao ang patas at epektibong proteksyon laban sa diskriminasyon kahit ano pa man ang kasihan. Para sa ating answer D, honesty is the best policy. Pakiwas to ang inyong gawain. Sunod na gawain ay gabay na layunin. Tukuyin ang layunin ng mga konsepto sa ibaba at ipaliwanag kung paano mo ito magagamit bilang gabay upang makagawa ng mga hakbang na magsusulong ng pagtanggap at paggalang sa kasalihan. Isulat ang sagot sa sagutang papel. Gender equality, layunin, gabay. Kampanyang heforshe.org, layunin, gabay. Soggy pill, layunin, gabay. Para sa susunod na gawain, action ngayon. Panuto, mag-isip ng 2 hanggang 3 programa, aktibidad na maaari mong gawin na magpapakita at magsusulong ng pagtanggap at paggalang sa kasalihan at nagtataguyod ng pagkakapantay-pantay ng tao bilang kasapi ng pamayanan. Sundin ang mga direksyon sa ibaba at isulat ang sagot sa sagutang papel. Isulat ang pangalan ng naisip mong programa, aktibidad. Isulat ang mga layunin nito, ang mga bagay na nais mong makamit dito. Isa-isahin mo ang mga hakbang na iyong isasagawa upang makamit ang iyong mga layunin. Isulat mo kung sino-sino ang may kinabang at kasapi sa programa, aktibidad na ito. Ipaliwanag ang inaasahang resulta ng naisip mong programa, aktibidad. Iyaking ang sinasaalang-alang na resulta ay magiging pakikinabang upang maitutunan itong aktibidad. At ang huli, gamitin ang kriteria sa ibaba bilang gabay sa pagsagawa ng bawat panuto. Ito ang programa, layunin, mga hakbang, makikinabang, kasapi, at inaasahang resulta. Maaari lamang nasagutan niyo ito. Ang kriteria sa pagmamarka, kategorya, original na programa, 30%, kalinawan ng layunin, 20%, kalinawan ng mga hakbang, 20%, kahalagahan ng programa, 30%. Para sa susunod na gawain, ang Pledge of Commitment. Bilang mag-aaral, dapat lamang na aktibo kang makibahagi sa paglinang ng ganap na kalayaan ng lahat ng Pilipino, maging anuman ang kasarian nito. Sa pagkakataong ito, ikaw ay gagawa ng isang Pledge of Commitment. Pagpatuloy mo ang pahayag sa ibaba, isulat ang sagot sa sagutang papel. Bilang isang mabuting Pilipino, mag-aaral, sisikapin kong isang buhay ang mga natutuhan ko sa ating dito, pang-araw-araw sa pamamagitan ng para sa ating pangwakas na pagsusulit, basahin mabuti ang bawat tanong at bigyan ang wastong sagot mula sa mga pagpipilian. Titik lamang ang wastong sagot ang isulat sa sagutang papel. Number 1, Number 2, Number 3, Number 4, Number 5, Number 6, Number 7, Number 8, Number 9, Number 10, Number 11, Number 12, Number 13, Number 14, Number 15. Ito ang answer key sa ating pagsusulit. Maaaring i-type lamang sa comment box ang inyong score sa pagsusulit na ito upang malaman kung kayo ba ay nakakuha ng mataas. Tandaan, honesty is the best policy. Para sa ating taktang aralin, maghanda para sa summative test. Ako muli ay nandito si Ginoong Ricky B. Marcelino, mag-aral ng mabuti, at tayo'y uunlad. Hanggang sa muli nating pagkikita sa susunod na mga aralin. Maraming salamat.